Okay, Matty, in the scant few minutes we have left in this broadcast, I believe you have questions.
Yes, sir. I was going to ask this
Hang on,
last
first
week,
of
but
all.
we got a little busy.
Yo,
He passed the shirt test today.
Fashion cop, we good?
Wow,
Yes.
nice.
All right, okay.
I'm not here Friday, so the exciting shirt will be Thursday this week.
Okay.
So you
I'll
can
look forward
prepare
to it.
yourselves accordingly. I was going to ask this last week, but we got a little busy. Now that the first coach has been let go, whose seat got a little bit hotter? Because it feels like once one goes, then the dominoes start to fall.
Yeah, looking around the league.
Couple
Can
of
we use
targets.
a lifeline?
Bruce Boudreau is one that a lot of people talk about, but
Yeah,
it didn't seem like
Minnesota
Bill
could.
Guerin was in a rush to
Maybe
do that.
Peter Laviolette?
That's one that's out there. Nashville continues to struggle. I don't know that they're a coach firing away as much as they are a Dave Poyle bold move trade. On 31 Thoughts Pod a couple of weeks ago, Elliot mused, and he doesn't generally throw these things out frivolously. That he wouldn't be surprised if David Poyle would be interested in Taylor Hall.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Turris is sitting in the press box. Is there a fresh start?
Scratched again tonight.
Yeah, is there a fresh start waiting for him with the? Well, I don't know. You'd have to tape to Kyle Turris to have him be acceptable for Taylor Hall.
That's
many picks and prospects, I imagine.
Yeah, there's some term on that one. So as far as coaches,
Doesn't look like there's very many from what I'm looking at the
Nashville's
standings.
a great pick. Obviously Minnesota's worthy of mention, but Vancouver, they're kind of in a tough little stretch, and
I think they're fine.
I think they're fine too. But his name does come up in Vancouver. At least the radio stations have been asking about him anyway.
Jeff Blashill, we talked about early on. I don't know if anyone would be surprised, although I don't think it would be the smartest move because why?
And Tortorella would be a name that would be out there, but what was that organization really expecting from this group this year?
What if Tampa Bay doesn't make playoffs this year?
Ooh.
Didn't John Cooper just re-up?
Got an extension last. What money's money?
The taxes.
Escrow. It's about escrow.
Unrelated to anything in Tampa, just taxes.
Yeah, we may have a quiet season this year.
On this day in 1902, who was born? Any guesses?
Lots of people, some of
Lots
which
of
probably
people.
played in the NHL.
And some of which are probably not around anymore. Actually, all of which probably. Eddie Shore was born on this day in
all-time
1902.
hockey. Wow.
And that leads me into my next thing. It has nothing to do with Eddie Shore. We do know the scene about in SlapShot talking about old-time hockey with Dick Clapper and Toe Blake and Eddie Shore.
Yeah.
Favorite scene in SlapShot. I've been trying to work this in somehow, and this was how I was going to do it.
First of all, my favorite Eddie Shore story is he was so hated around the
This
NHL
is so
by
good.
visiting teams. And probably the first great Boston's had an embarrassment of riches on the blue line, which continues today with a player like Zdeno Chara. But go back, and whether it's Bobby Orr is an obvious one, Ray Bourque, Brad Park, they've always had just fantastic blue liners. I still think Gord Kluzak could have been great, but knee surgery. In opposing rinks, he would be booed in warm-up mercilessly.
Really?
So you can either shrink or you can grow. What did Eddie Shore do? He would wear a black cape and warm up as the ultimate villain around the NHL and select arenas.
Spectacular.
You guys have a favorite scene? You just watched SlapShot again last
Well,
night.
I
didn't
just
you,
watched
Stewie?
it. I watched it last night with my father-in-law because we do a lot of references on the show, and he wanted to know what we were talking about. So there's a lot of scenes for me. What do you? I'm trying to think.
you're
off the
trying to
top
pick
of my
the one
head. I'm
that's
trying to
not
think of the. I know.
Yeah, well,
we're not
the
gonna say
Denny
it.
Lemieux trade me scene is fantastic. Just because it really, that hotel scene of all the guys just being a bunch of hobos together and playing cards and like half dressed, that just felt so hockey to me. And like dealing with a personal phone call in the midst of it, and a guy going out for a call of sorts.
I
That's
just
it's
like
just
the
so-
craziest hockey part is the most unrealistic that you'd never see. It's when Killer Carlson's doing a stick fight versus McCrack and Dr. Hook.
Dr. Hook McCracken.
And they're literally having a stick fight because he wants to get the bounty. Yeah.
You put a
Yeah.
bounty on a man's head. Click.
There's a great scene on, one of the great lines in the bus too, and it's very subtle and it's very quiet.
Are you guys brothers?
No, that's a good one too. He's gonna go ask their brother. What a life! One of the very subtle, great lines is, "Look at Ned. He doesn't need hockey." Is such a brilliant line. If I do it all again, I get an education. Nah. is such a hockey line.
I thought one of the greatest lines, which you really like, is after the Hanson brothers like pump up before the game, where the guy goes, "It's embarrassing."
No, he says that's effing embarrassing.
He goes,
That's Johnny Upton, who's my favorite character. It's effing embarrassing.
It's effing embarrassing.
Yeah, he's the veteran. Looks like
My favorite is when they acquire the Hansons and they come in with their race cars and they're beating
brought
up
their
their
toys.
They brought their bleeping toys with them. Where did you get these guys from? Quickly,
Iron League. A lot of fights.
Training for a washing machine or a used puck bag.
Keith Yandel had 9 teeth knocked out, returned for the third period, and kept his Ironman streak alive. What is the toughest thing you've ever seen on the ice, whether in regards to an injury or whatever? And is the Ironman streak unappreciated, seeing how banged up these guys get?
The reason it's not unappreciated is because we see guys who don't play physical hockey get them, like Yandel and the Sedins and Kessel. Like, if it were the most physical players in the league getting them, I think we would hold them up higher. But I think there's the
Doug Jarvis.
Normally people step back and say, well, they just don't play that physical game, which is why they don't maybe get as much love, even though those guys do play through a ton of injuries to get them.
You know what? I find that players respect that more than casual hockey fans do. Like, if you talk to players like that, I remember when Andrew Cogliano got suspended by George Peros for those 2 games, and his Ironman streak came to an end.
Which it shouldn't have.
There were players. Now, you can't cherry pick just based on us. I was fine with that one. I know Cogliano would probably feel differently. But there were players that were legit pissed off about it. Like, do you find that too? The players were more upset about him having his Ironman streak suspended artificially.
Yeah. You want whenever
that
it's
means a
something
lot
that
to
everyone
players.
strives through, being an Ironman and playing that many games. So guys, they hate to see it, be ended that way. But for me, it was David Booth. He broke his rib. And I was carpooling with him. He was actually driving with a broken rib. He was still in his hospital gown. And I didn't know how to drive stick, so I actually had to just shift for him while he hit the clutch. So we actually drove. He's
That
driving with
is
a broken rib.
Cruising USA.
Great way to end the show. Back tomorrow.